the smartest man alive.
Apostate Prophet. Everyone knows that ex-Muslims are just ex-Muslims because they want to be paid by Israel. Okay, I'll stop it. It's not fun. It's not funny. I know it's.
A few moments later.
Also, if you haven't seen it yet, the link is below in the description. There is a link to Pamela Geller's website, Geller Report. My story is also on her page. Thanks, Pamela Geller. Thank you so much. I love you.
What? What the
冰淇淋
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Islamic Calling Podcast. This is going to be my last, probably going to be my last video on Apostate Prophet. So I was feeling quite nostalgic, so I wanted to make the video the same way I made my first video on him. But so in case you guys don't know, I've been making videos on Apostate Prophet for nearly 3 years now. I have refuted all his 20 reasons as to why he left Islam. In this video, I'm going to be refuting his last 3 reasons as to why he left Islam. Let's take a look and see what he says, and then I'll make my comment, inshallah.
20. How the West treats Muslims and how Muslims treat others and each other. I grew up in Germany, as you all already know. Well, in Germany, I was always told that the Germans are infidels and they're dirty and stuff like that, you know, and we should we can be friends with them, but they are still just the infidels, you know, they're Christians and atheists and stuff like that.
Yeah, here he is committing the history generalization fallacy. There are over 5 million Muslims that live near Germany, and so Ridwan, are you seriously going to tell me that the amount of Muslims that you know, and how many Muslims do you know, Ridwan? What is it, like 5, 10, 20, 30? Do you honestly think just by knowing 5 or 10 Muslims, you can tell what the rest of the Muslim world is like? Because in my experience, Muslims and non-Muslims, in my country at least, have always got along. And we never had any issues. I mean, I had non-Muslim friends when I was growing up. So it has never been an issue for us. We have always gotten along. We've had non-Muslim neighbors. I even went to a Catholic school when I was a kid. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about. It has never been an issue here. And also, to be honest, it honestly sounds like Ridwan was in like some kind of a cult, kind of like a Sufi cult. The more I hear about it, the more it sounds like his family was in some kind of a cult. So I hardly doubt somehow that is the actual representative of the Sunni Muslim experience, the normal Sunni Muslim experience. So I wouldn't really accept that either.
Well, the West cares so much about Muslims. The West gives Muslims everything. The West gives Muslims privilege that no one else has. The West gives Muslims the opportunity to come, to live, to use state money, to use welfare. The West protects Muslims from offensive speech, from racism, and everything. The West offers Muslims places to pray. And the Muslims demand all those things. And if Muslims don't get one of those things, or if they get everything, but they still have a single demand that they don't get, they get upset and they blame the West and the Jew and the Christians and the infidels and America and Israel and MOSSAD.
Here he's just like whining about the West. He's saying how amazing the West is. West is so good, you know. Yeah, I mean, like if you're only like taking into account how the West treats its own citizens, yeah, sure, the West is nice, but that's no different than how like China treats its own citizens, right? Sure, China treats Han Chinese citizens very well. They get a lot of benefits, and they're, you know, for the most part treated well as long as they listen to the government or become a Wumao. But you know, if you're like some kind of rebel, or if you're like I don't know, like a Uyghur who doesn't necessarily fit the description of what a Chinese citizen is, then you get the beating. And it's the same thing with the West. I mean, like if you're like a citizen, of course they're gonna treat you nice. But if you're not a citizen and you happen to live like, I don't know, some other foreign country in Africa or in Latin America, then they're happy to bomb you, they're happy to starve your country, they're happy to do all kind of nasty things. But that's okay. That's okay. But the West is so nice, right?
But let's come to how Muslims treat others. In the whole Islamic world, you should not be a Christian, you should not be an atheist, and you should never be a Jew. In most Muslim countries, there is no free speech. In most Muslim countries, you are not allowed to say anything about Islam, if it is negative. In most Muslim countries, you are not allowed to establish your own houses of prayer. Even if some countries allow it, like Turkey, for example. Turkey allows it, but practically they actually don't. It takes years to get a license like that, and mostly they just deny it for no reason.
That's not true. I mean, even if it did, I don't think it would matter, because that's, again, appeal to false authority. Most Muslim countries are secular countries, at least now, especially countries like Indonesia and others. And there are many churches in these countries. For example, in Indonesia, there are like 61,000 churches, which is a lot, by the way. I don't know why there's so many churches there. In Nigeria, there are 16,000 churches. In Egypt, there are nearly 1,000 churches. So yeah, there's a lot of churches in Muslim countries. And these are especially countries with very large Muslim population. So it's not like small countries. Now, from a fiqh perspective, he's right. Christians or Jews are not allowed to like build churches in Muslim land.
ما حكم بناء المسلمين الكنائس للنصارى من باب التقارب بين الأديان والتعايش؟
نسأل الله العافية. ما يجوز هذا. ما يجوز أن تبنى الكنائس في بلاد المسلمين، لكن المسلمون إذا استولوا على بلاد فيها كنائس وعاهدوا النصارى أو اليهود، تبقى كنائسهم، لكن ما يمكنون أن يحدثوا كنائس جديدة، إنما الموجود منها فقط بموجب العهد الذي بينهم. لا يجوز للمسلمين أن يبنوا كنائس للنصارى، ولا يجوز لهم أن يمكنوا النصارى من إحداث كنائس في بلاد المسلمين.
But here's the thing. Why should they be allowed to do that anyway? I mean, like, they have laws in place that where if the government thinks that if you are being not being nice to your children, they can take your children away. The Western government and like any kind of like secular liberal government, they have this type of barbaric ruling where they don't allow Muslims to practice their religion.
The reason I say religion when describing social services taking your children away is because raising children is a huge religious obligation in Islam. In the Quran it says, "O you who have believed, protect yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is people and stones, over which are angels, harsh and severe. They do not disobey Allah in what He commands them, but do what they are commanded." And the Prophet said, "Each of you is a shepherd and each of you is responsible for his flock. A man is the shepherd of his household and is responsible for his flock. The woman is the shepherd of her husband's household and is responsible for her flock." Narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So if a father or mother loses their child to social services, then they cannot perform their religious obligation of raising their children. So these Western and secular liberal governments are forcing Muslims to not be able to practice their religion.
Like, for example, in America, they have laws where if you like say anything against like the LGBTQ, you could get into legal trouble for that. You could be arrested. And not just that, I mean, they also have situations where if, for example, and I think it's in the UK, where if you refuse to like give job to someone based on their quote unquote gender, for example, if you like refuse to give job to like an LGBTQ person in a place where you're just trying to like hire Muslims, then you can be arrested. You could literally be arrested. So no, there is no like religious freedom in the West or in America. That's a myth. Okay, so since you guys don't have this type of religious freedom, then why should the Muslim countries allow Christians to like build churches so that they can take more people to the hellfire? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, and yeah, from Islamic perspective, it's not allowed. I mean, like, we don't want people to go to the hellfire. We don't want there to be buildings that could attract people to falsehood. So, of course, we don't want this type of buildings in our countries.
Warnings against questioning Islam. If you have grown up a Muslim, like me, you are probably very familiar with some things that you very often say, like, God protect me, or forgiveness, or forgive me, God. There are so many things that when you say them, you have to say afterwards, God forgive me. You can't make religious jokes. You can never make religious jokes. It's very, very, very bad. People who make religious jokes are terrified. People are terrified of religious jokes. People are even terrified of thinking about the existence of Allah and stuff like that. That's why I was always so afraid. Well, the Quran says many times that we have a mind, and then we should use our mind. And God gave us a mind, right? If God gave us a mind, why shouldn't we be able to use it? Why should we be afraid? Isn't that stupid? Here we see in an example that when Muhammad was asked a question on who created Allah, he said this: "The Satan comes to every one of you and says, who created this and that, till he questions who created you, Lord. When he comes to that, one should seek refuge in Allah and keep away." I'm sorry, but if you are the Prophet of God, can't you explain this? Can't you have an answer on this question instead of saying, stay away from it?
That's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already answered this question, you dumbass. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered this question multiple times. So basically, people were asking him a question that is already answered in the Quran. He's saying that don't let illogical questions bug your mind. That's what he's saying. Because this is already clarified in the Quran. For example, in the Quran, in Surah Ikhlas, it says, Lam yalid wa lam yulad, which means that he wasn't born or he didn't give birth. Okay? For example, another chapter, Quran chapter 57:3, it says, He is the first and the last, the ascended and the intimate, and He is of all things knowing. So yeah, what these two verses confirm is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal. Okay, He has always existed. He didn't begin because He was the first. There was nothing before Him. He always existed. What caused something that always existed? That doesn't make any sense. That's a stupid question. That's like saying, what's north of north? There's no north of north. There's just north. Okay, so yeah, it's just a stupid question. Because when you say that what's north of north, that means what you're describing as north is both not north and north at the same time, which is a contradiction. It doesn't make sense. So the Prophet is simply saying to not question something that is logical and that is proven in Islam in favor of something illogical. That's what he's saying. He's not saying that you shouldn't be skeptical at all. He's saying that you shouldn't favor these type of illogical questions over something logical and well established in our religion. Okay, that's what he's saying. He's saying to reject illogical questions. That's it. What the shaitan does is that he will often entice you to question your religion by using bad logic. Okay, this is something he will try to do. And the Prophet is warning us to not go down that path because he's trying to lead you to falsehood, right? He's trying to make you doubt the truth. And this is completely valid. Also, he says that he's trying to act like, Islam is against like rationality and thinking, which is absolutely false because there is so many verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to think. For example, in Quran 16:12 it says, "And He has subjected for you the night and day, and the sun and the moon, and the stars are subjected by His command. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reason." So basically, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically talking about the fine-tuning of His creation, right? He's saying that He has put signs in His creation so that we can understand that He exists. We can come to the logical conclusion that He exists, right? That's what He's saying. And there are more than 40 verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly tells us to reason, to use our intellect, to reason, right? And if you just type, the word reason, and also is constantly telling us to use our mind. He's telling us to reason, to use our intellect. So to say that, like Quran is or Islam is against intellect is absolutely stupid. But regardless, let's continue.
This is my favorite one. Death for apostasy. But before I left Islam, I knew that the punishment for me leaving Islam was death. I deserved death. I should be killed. Well, Islam is a religion that forbids you from leaving it. How can that be a thing of a good God, who sent you to earth and who gives you free will? Who gives you free will and who gives you opportunities and who loves you?
Okay, this is maybe the stupidest point that Apos makes. Why on earth would a loving God would want people like you to lead other people to the hellfire? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, look at your channel. Like, all you do is try to lead people to the hellfire. That's something you're constantly trying to do. So of course he will try to prevent that. Of course he will try to prevent the influence of scumbags like you who try to get other people to join them to the hellfire. I mean, if that is true, then of course he will try to stop it. And one of the best ways to stop it is to, have some actual punishment for it. And so this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, of course he's gonna have some kind of rule or regulation. And it's not like it's something unique to Islam. This exists in Christianity, although Christians may deny it, but still it exists. And also it exists in Judaism. I mean, in Judaism and Christianity, it really says that the one who leaves the religion should be stoned to death. So yeah, this is completely consistent. In Islam, the way religious identity works is that your religion is your citizenship. So if you choose to reject your religion, then you're not just rejecting some personal belief that you have. You're also rejecting your social identity, social, religious, and political identity. Okay, because all of these things, and national identity as well, because all of these things were mashed up together in this one identity, which is, being a Muslim, especially in a theocentric state or Islamic state. All of these things are together. So when you reject religion, you don't just reject religion, but you also renounce your citizenship, right?
Another thing to note is that I am not talking about vigilante justice or mob justice. Vigilante justice is not allowed in Islam. I am talking about in a well-established Islamic country where the constitution is based on Islamic Sharia law. In this case, only the judge or the ruler can decide and punish the criminal. So any type of vigilante justice you see in news is not permissible. You cannot break treaties or violate the law of the land.
Another argument is the following, which is that imagine that, and this is from the perspective of a leader, right? Imagine that, you're a leader of an Islamic state, right? I mean, and say that someone commits treason against you, right? Or violates your own laws that you made. Will you punish them? Of course you will, right? Now, let's be consistent. Let's say that then why won't you punish people who violate the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has much greater authority than you, and who put you in power? So if you believe that, then of course you will punish people with much harsher punishment than the people who broke your laws, right? So based on this, we can make this argument, which is that, premise one, if people are allowed to violate laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then people should be allowed to violate laws of men. Premise two, people are allowed to violate laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Conclusion, therefore people should be allowed to violate laws of men. And that's the thing, right? Why is it that people in our country will be allowed to violate laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has much greater authority than you, who has created you and created everything, but they will not be allowed to violate laws of man? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they can violate laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they should be allowed to violate laws of man. They should be allowed to commit crimes. Otherwise, you're just being inconsistent. So in order to be consistent, you have to punish both. Okay, you have to punish both. And that's the argument.
Last point, because Christians, Jews, and CIA and Mossad pay me. Everyone knows that ex-Muslims are just ex-Muslims because they want to be paid by Israel. Okay, I'll stop it. It's not fun. It's not funny. I know it's not funny. Anyway, I will make separate videos about all of these points mentioned if I didn't make videos of them before already. If you haven't watched my first video of this series already, you can do that now. I will link it at the end of this video. There I tell you everything about my past as a Muslim, and I'm brutally honest. I want it to be totally transparent. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, the link is below in the description. There is a link to Pamela Geller's website, Geller Report. My story is also on her page. Thanks, Pamela Geller. Thank you so much. I love you.
So yeah, I find it absolutely hilarious. So in this clip, he actually refutes himself. So he says that he doesn't get any funding from Israel, right, or Zionists, right, because Zionists is Israel. So he says that he doesn't get any funds from Zionists or Israel, and yet then later on he says that he's literally being supported by a Zionist, which means he's being supported by Israel, because Zionists are supporters of Israel. So he literally refutes his own argument. And this is just so dumb. So for example, if you guys don't know, this Pamela Geller is a hardcore Zionist and a anti-Islamic bigot. And this woman was actually one of the people that actually inspired Andrews Breivik, the terrorist who committed that horrible terror act that happened in New Zealand or somewhere, I think. And this woman has direct ties with, and she is working with organizations that actually fund right-wing terrorist groups in Israel. Okay, so for example, in an article in Haaretz, it says, the title says, "Why is mainstream Jewish philanthropy funding anti-Muslim far-right Pamela Geller?" Jewish Communal Fund, a mainstream philanthropy group, has given at least $100,000 to Geller's American Freedom Defense Initiative since 2012. So this fund, it's called Jewish Communal Fund, has given nearly $100,000 to Pamela Geller's foundation, right? But what is this group? What is this Jewish Communal Fund? Well, this Jewish Communal Fund are the same group that has been funding a lot of radical kind of right-wing terrorists in Israel. So for example, in an article by Forward, it says, in the wake of last year's round of deadly fighting in Gaza, a group of prominent rabbis in the New York area came to believe that a major American Jewish charity had indirectly fueled the violence. In a letter to the charity, the 90 rabbis, including ones with national renown such as Angela Buchdal, Sharon Klinsbaum, and Amichai Lau-Lavi, pointed out that it was allowing tax-exempt funds to flow to Israeli right-wing extremists. As a donor-advised funds, the 2.4 billion Jewish communal funds accept donations from thousands of individuals and distributes the money according to their recommendation. Some money, the rabbis said, is going to Leheba, a group known for their incendiary marches throughout Palestinian neighborhoods and Jerusalem, involving participants chant "Death to the Arabs." Leheba carried out one such march before fighting between Israel and Hamas broke out last year. And in another article, it says Pamela Geller, it's in LA Times, Pamela Geller, the controversial author and activist, was set to deliver a lecture Sunday morning to the Zionist Organization of America that she had given many times before, billed by organizations as the revelation of the root cause of war in Middle East. So basically it's an anti-Islamic bigot, same as Robert Spencer. So yeah, she's a hardcore Zionist, anti-Islamic bigot, and she is getting funded by so-called charity organizations that are also funding terrorist organization or Israeli terrorist organization in Israel that are chanting "Death to Arabs." So yeah, this is so, and she is doing favors for APOS. So I'm sorry, but APOS, you are being supported by Zionists. You are being sponsored by Israel supporting hardcore Zionists. So yes, you are being paid by Israel. If not by funds or actual funds or actual money, instead you're being paid by being sponsored on their website. So I hope my videos have been helpful to everyone, and I'm very proud of them. So you guys can check out this playlist anytime you want. You can send it and share it with your friends. I think the playlist is complete, and inshallah, maybe I'll make videos on Apos in the future if I feel like it, but I have no plans to make any more videos on him. And my last message to Ridwan or Apos is gonna be this. And I know that you'll never change, probably. And honestly, I think that's sad. But at the end of the day, I will still invite you back to Islam. Now that I've refuted all the reasons for why you left Islam, I hope that you come back to Islam, which probably won't happen, but I hope that you do. But, you know, if you don't, then on the day of judgment, don't blame anyone else. Okay, just don't. You know this was coming. If you don't change your ways, that's your destination. And if you guys like the video, like, share, subscribe, and click the bell icon, of course. And if you guys want to support the channel, then please support me on Patreon or become a member. It will mean the world to me. Again, these videos take a lot of time to make, so I would really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh, and by the way, stay away from Apos. Bye.